they did not put it on YouTube. We are not in control of what.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But we can't because it's their entity.
Yeah.
But now something here we can do not. I wish we probably could, but if that would be then because it's Western North Carolina did that on us. And I don't know the rules and all that type of stuff. But I know at the campground they have a representative where they can do both. But at that church, I would lie. I'm not 100% though. Right now it's just on Facebook, but maybe one day now, who knows. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get started and we'll open up in prayer and then we'll get into our lesson. Almighty God and Father, Lord Jesus, we love you, we thank you, God. Lord, we ask you
Yes, Lord, we lift up the name
be in
of
this
Jesus.
tabernacle today, God.
Hallelujah.
Help us to hear your voice and do your work in your will today, God. Lord, meet with us on a personal level because you know all things that are in our heart and mind, our prayer requests, God, that you keep it close to our lips that we don't share. Lord, but you also see the spoken requests, God, and we ask you, Lord, just to move mightily on those requests. Continue to touch Sister Sheila's body, God. Continue to let healing virtue flow.
Yes,
For
Lord,
others that are
hallelujah.
not here, that want to be here, God, we ask you just to continue to touch their body. We praise you for the praise report from the Hensley's, God, how
Hallelujah.
Brother Ronnie had said that he's in most 100%. We thank you for that, God, and we ask you just to continue to heal
Yes,
his body.
Lord, bring them
and
back
his
into your hands.
entire family, God. Lord, for the people that are not here, that need to be here, God, I ask you, Lord, to wake them up and do what they want to, God. Lord, fill this house with people that you would have to be here today, God. Lord, be the pastor as he brings forth the word, Lord, into him as he pours out, God. And Lord, as I present the Sunday school lesson, God, how we behind the cross, I can say what only you would have kids say, God. And Lord, do what you do best and just meet with us and love on us and help us worship you in the beauty and holiness as you have ordained. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Like Brother Major had talked about last week, we are learning about working for the Lord. Last week was laws for work and rest. Today is biblical wisdom for work. How many people like to work? One hand.
For the Lord.
One hand. The thing that was once shared is if you do what you love, you'll never work it out in your life. Because if you're doing what you enjoy, it doesn't feel like a burden. If you're doing what you're calling for man to do, it's not a burden. Does that make sense? Because let's say, for instance, I think I passed him for a minute. He was doing a job in the nursing field. Would he really do that? No, because he has fears and numbness. But if he was doing that work, he would be miserable because he doesn't enjoy that kind of thing. It's something that, he doesn't like meals, it's just a whole thing with him. He's like miserable all the time. But whenever he's doing something with his hands and building something and using his brain and the math that God has blessed him with, he's happy and content because it's something he knows and he enjoys. It's something that it doesn't really, like his days will fly by faster, but if he's doing something that makes him miserable, it takes forever, right? So, I think a part of that's part of what biblical wisdom for work is, and we'll get into that a little more. The central truth is a right attitude towards work makes it more rewarding. Our golden text is, he also that is slothful in his work is brother to him that is a great waster. Proverbs 18:9. Whenever I read that, I was like, okay, well, let's do this in some different words. So I looked it up in the Amplified version, which will break it down a little easier for us. It says, he who is careless in his work is a brother to him who destroys. So if you go and you do a job and you don't know what you're doing, and you halfway do it, basically, because you don't know what you're doing, and you put a round peg in a square hole, something that somebody else is going to have to go and fix. Or they're going to call you back and say, yeah, you're right. Right? Because when you're careless, you're destroying the other people's time. You're destroying the building's integrity, because there's things where, and I can only speak to this because I have been married to a man that was in construction. And like sometimes whenever a building falls or you see something that's not right, it's like they didn't put right in place. It's not built, it wasn't built integrity, it's not built strong. They halfway did it and rushed through it. That's why that whole brick wall just went boom. And it's literally seen that, where they didn't put, what's that called, tie things or something on the walls. They just slapped the brick up because they were paid by the brick. But they failed to put that safety measure in, that tie in, to make the brick stick to the wall. So when it went flat, guess what? Now those people were out for money. Destroyed all that hard work and effort and energy, whatever. It also destroyed the bank account because they had to pay somebody else to come back and do it, right? So, God ordained rest and leisure, which is what we learned last week. However, this lesson we're going to learn that God abhors inactivity, sloth, and laziness. He wants you to work. Even whenever He created Adam and Eve, they learned. Their first thought was to, hey, Adam, go name the animals. I remember watching a cartoon one time. I think it was before Baby Details, but it was like, it was talking about creation, and then you had Juice. Adam, you go name the animals. And he's like, looking at two animals, and he's like, you're an elephant. And then he's like, no, that's not right. Because he was looking at like a giraffe. And then he was like, giraffe and an elephant or whatever. He said, no, you're the elephant and you'll be the giraffe. But I mean, could you imagine if he didn't name the animals, what we would be calling some of these animals today? So that's good that, that this comes up, but that was his first time. This element of things didn't change until the fall. When the fall happened, then man had to start working by the sweat of his brow. Then women had pain during childbirth. Then all the things just started happening. Whereas before, Adam was doing what he enjoyed. It was, just did his thing, but then he had to start working by the sweat of his brow. It wasn't just so easy peasy. It was like, it is good, and it popped up, and all you had to do was harvest. Now you had to dig, and you had to plant, and you had to sow, and you had to do all that work. Because that was part of the fall of man. That was part of the curse that was given to us. Poverty, profit, destruction, and riches. Proverbs 14:23, 18:9, and 23:4. And there is a lot of different scriptures in this lesson, so just bear with me. 14:23, it says, in all labor there is profit, but the top of the lips tendeth only to penury. Well, I thought, well, we need to put that in some better words for covering. So the Amplified says, in all labor there is profit, but more talk leads only to poverty. So if you're all talking, you're not doing what you say you're going to do. Does that get you anywhere? If I say, oh, I'm going to go and do this, and this is what's going to happen, then I just sit like a man on the wall without doing anything for me back. We're left in the same spot, right? 18:9. He that is slothful in his work is a brother to him who is a great waster. And that is also a Roman text. 23:4 says, labor not to be greedy, but labor not to be rich. Cease from thine own wisdom. So, work has dignity. Whenever you do it the right way, you have dignity in it, right? You're like, hey, I did that. I built that. I planted that garden and looked very proud. With God's help, I planted it looking really proud. How many not take my first harvest to somebody else? Because that's what Scripture says, and we're really proud. Yes. And it's sustaining me and my family and my neighbors and all these things. That's when you know you have dignity. But whenever you know you're just only halfway, you have dignity. just like a sandwich together, and you don't care how long in your put it on a plug, and you can use something. The rest of it can go on, and you just have some plug, but you're not going to do it, the rest of it can go on the plug. For a couple different reasons. For one, that's not plug, right? You didn't do it either. But now whenever you slide that sandwich together, you guys are getting the turkey, you should be taking your fish toast. And people eat it, are going, this is good, this is, this is the spot. Because it's what it is. Or if you go and you order a nice big old ribeye and they serve you chicken, is that what they do? It's not what it's meant to be. But whenever they do it the right way, then you're happy with what they serve, right? Whenever you do things with dignity. Work just beyond what we do in our profession, our career. It is also our housework, or doing dishes and laundry, driving the children to and from school, and chores around the house, volunteering for church and community, and more. Work is as much a basic human need as food, beauty, rest, friendship, prayer, and intimacy. It is not simply medicine, but food for our soul. Without meaningful work, we sense a significant inner loss of emptiness. People who are cut off from work because of physical or other reasons quickly discover how much they need work to thrive emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And that was by Timothy Keller in the book Every Good Endeavor. Some of you are already retired. You've done your due diligence, you've worked. But even in your retirement, you're still working, right? Or are you just sitting like an arm alone?
All down through the years, I think lost power, we had still no kids, the good place well. Now, the good churches that I heard, 40 years, God has given me a gift of mother's life. I mother's life for 40 years. I've done a lot of stuff. I've led the music. Anytime you do a hit, God gives you. This church should be the best, beautiful place that they are. The people come to it.
And also hard workers like you, where God is so beautiful. It makes them more welcoming.
Well, this 18th verse, I kept on looking at it. Yes, I paid all my labors, but God help. Done unto the man that shall be qualified for me. And really, when I put one of the bright shoe, everything my son off. And he has done so beautiful job.
Amen. Amen.
I really praise But anytime you do this like God, He's going to give you double back what you do. But you have to do in fear of God and in His business.
Yes.
Do.
Scripture does tell us the work is unto the Lord. So if you are all willing anyway, you'll mow the grass. And weeds all stacked up, is that doing it for God? Somebody pull it, or they go look at that and go, do exactly like that grass. But when you do it, and you do it with that precision, and you make sure that it's just right, just like how you want your house to look.
Really, that was my job. Farming of it. Well, I said the Lord Christ on farming started one of the But I had moved the log rice for the ladies. God, it's getting 84 years. That's the only reason I'm still alive. God is giving me praise.
something along the lines of, in order to leave a legacy, you have to start something. And you have to build on it. So, just because, Major passed forward, that's a legacy. And when he does what he's supposed to do, when his dad did what he was supposed to do, and then Junior came along, and Junior does what he's supposed to do, then the third will fall in line, the fourth will fall in line, and so on and so forth, right? And that's what it takes. Even in the church, even if you don't have a second, third, and fourth, and junior, and fifth, and on down the line, you still pour into people. Whenever you leave with you, whenever you do your work, whenever you start a ministry, and you bring it forward, and you pour it into somebody else on how to do it, and how to do it right, and see it come to its full potential. That's what it's about. So even in retirement, and in different things, you're still working. Some of us work by praying, some of us work by cleaning, some of us work by many different things. That's what it takes to make the church work. It takes our prayer warriors. It takes people picking up. It takes ministries. It takes all things working together. It says that we shouldn't shame people that are in poverty. The word differentiates between those who are poor through no fault of their own and those in poverty because of sloth, laziness, and wishful thinking. Idleness among the able-bodied leads to injury of poverty. The Hebrew word for poverty means to be in want. The opposite of God's promise for those who work and put Him first. So, it's one thing of no fault of your own to be in poverty. It's another to be in poverty because you're choosing not to do anything in poverty. And that's why in presenting this, I want to be very, very careful because some people are able-bodied and they choose to be stay-at-home moms and stay-at-home dads. And the kids need that. Because in this world, I would probably often do the same thing, and I would probably often homeschool. Because it'd be great right now. And even whenever Katie was finishing up school, in high school, it was starting to become a very crazy world. She was like, Mom, this is what happened to school today, Mom. So, it's one of those things where you really put your family. But it's another thing to not have all that, I'm saying, I'm just going to do this, that, or the other, and you're sitting like on a wall, and you're doing all these big dreams, or learning the credit card bills, and you're just choosing one. So there's a difference between those. But it's another if you do have a disability, like absolutely disability, or if you have had a traumatic experience and you do something for PTSD, which can't be around certain things. Those are true things that happen. Because sometimes our homeless is as great as it is because they've experienced something like that. And they just literally can't even know themselves. We didn't make an answer. Be somewhere where there's God is. It's just like the 4th of July. Even with some animals, they get near on those big blasts and rocks because it's so small. That's why we have to be careful with that stuff. And not look down on somebody. If you do see somebody quote unquote out of character, it's not out of character. Everyone else does it. So that's why we have to be very, very careful when we do this, when we do the ministry. That we're really seeking out, are these people truly needy, or are they just looking for a handout? And how can we help them if it is just a handout? Or is it just because they're just like, Scripture talks about all this stuff. A Norwegian proverb says, the lazier a man is, the more he plans to do tomorrow. So if you think about that, it's true. Well, I'll do this and this and this and this and this tomorrow, but if you're lazy, you're going to wake up and do the same thing all over again. And, well, I'm going to do this and 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 this, and then you're going to leave. Right? So, planting, living, and laziness. Proverbs 24:27, and verses 30 to 34. Prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house. I went by the field of the slothful, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns and nettles, and at the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it, and received instruction, yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. Whenever I read this part, it made me think of myself. It says, the financial downfall of many young couples is seeking to quickly obtain the kind of house, car, appliances, and other conveniences that their parents accumulated over many years. So we have one young adult that's starting out in life, and you probably have some great big dreams, right? But or do you think you're just going to go right out and get a brand new 2026 Ford Explorer and have a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house and all and lock your kids? What's going to take? It's going to take time. Because the things that we don't see growing up is the work that we're going to see. Because we just talk. Mom, they go to work and I go to school, that's the job. But we didn't see the overtime. We didn't see the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into getting the house and the life. The sacrifices they make through all that. They just say, whoop, it's what happened now. And in this world, right now, some generational people think that we owe them something. There was even a lady that I remember hearing about. She sued her parents because she didn't ask to be born. It's things like that this is what the world is now. But some function. I want to say that she did to a certain extent, but she wasn't rewarded you owe me a lifetime of money because I didn't ask to be born. You just did it all willy-nilly, basically. And then I seen a video later from the same lady, and she was like, yes, I have a daughter, but I don't. And it's still the same concept. Number one, nobody didn't necessarily ask to be born, right? It happens. God puts men and women together, and it happens. But I didn't necessarily ask to be born either, but I was. And I'm mad at my parents for it. No, I was mad at them for putting me in the middle of their arguments. Come on now. It's circle one. But now in this generation, we also have kids that make their copies and cats. Whatever other creature they choose to identify as. Is it also what they're doing? Some of them truly think that. I don't get it. Back in it says that they don't consider the many hours of the hard work invested by the previous generation. So when we do have our legacy set forward, whether we have up to the 4th generation, or if we that generation first and we're starting afresh, it still takes this, because it's slippery slope. And it takes a change. And you can't be lazy when you make those changes. You just can't. So I go on to what makes work ready, Solomon's endeavors, and flip it over to Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 3, chapter 2, verses 4 through 6, and verse 11. And it reads, what profit hath a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun? Chapter 2, start from verse 4. I made me great works. I builded me houses. I made me gardens and orchards. I planted trees and all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water, and water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, it was all vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. So when you listen to that, it kind of makes you think, he's not a little kitty party, right? He's looking at all the things he's done, and now he's calling out for that. Oh, believe me. Near the end of Solomon's days, his sad production was everything he had worked for was in vain, and the properties he acquired were not unprofitable. Solomon's great sin was not what he had accumulated, but whether how and why. It says he was paid exorbitantly through taxes collected from working people, truce money paid by foreign kings to maintain peace, and assessments levied against the various provinces of the nation. His throne was made of ivory, overlaid with gold, with a golden footstool. His drinking cups and eating utensils were of gold, because silver was considered the deepest thing. So as he's sitting there, looking at all the things he's got, he's saying, he's just going to always make the truth. We'll get into this a little more. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But when you look at what he brought, what do you see about yourself? That's jumping a little bit ahead of I'm going to keep trucking and then we'll talk about it again in a minute. Solomon's dissatisfaction, Ecclesiastes 2:18-23 and 5-12. Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should lead unto a man that shall be after me. And who knoweth whether he is a wise man or a fool? Yet he hath rule over all my labor wherein I have labored, and wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. For what hath a man about his labor, and of the vexation of his heart, wherein he hath labored under the sun? For all his days are sorrows, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not rest in the night. This is also vanity. The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. So, putting it kind of plainly for a second, he's saying, what's going to happen now? Because he has a son. That's supposed to be a child. Very good. Very good. So when you look at all the things you have, and who you're equal to, it says a lot about yourself. And it also says a lot about who you're equal to, what kind of person you are. It said, Adam Clark said, alas, Solomon was the wisest of all men, the worst use of his wisdom, and had 700 wives and 300 concubines, and yet left but one son behind him to possess his estates and his crown. And that one was the silliest of fools. So even though Solomon spent his life looking for love in all the wrong places, he wasted his wisdom for business by acquiring wealth for all the wrong reasons, then failing to protect them. So when you think about this, he's so upset because Ray Long would repent. Did he teach Ray Long anything in all of this? Because he asked for wisdom from God, right? He was supposed to be the wisest of them all. Yet he had, I'm the wisest of them all. So God tells us that we are supposed to be the husband of one wife, one, and he had one. And out. So he wasn't using that wisdom that God gave him. Oh, And so whenever he wrote Ecclesiastes, he's trying to kind of make up for the Song of Solomon was like a love poem. And then he's got Ecclesiastes and Proverbs, and Proverbs is a book of wisdom. So when you're looking at the wisdom that he's instilling in Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, where he's like, don't do how he did. Don't. That's some of the wisest things that you ever say. Especially whenever mom and dad sometimes look at me and they're like, not good on me, my girl. And but that's sometimes what mom and dad do. Mom and dad don't be like, I'll be strong, I'll be able to follow my footsteps, I want to have my business, I want, all those things. But sometimes that's the greatest wisdom is not to have. Because what did you do? You might have built it. And they think you have business. And then all these wonderful things. They can bring you rocker and all that, and it was so much better and sweeter. Whereas that other vehicle, and they just like you want to run. Just put that on. You're right. You are not what you do. You want to stop. If you don't know, you just see what you make. You see, you know, so lean on your pastor and your pastor's wife. Lean on your people that you can to learn what God is. Because I don't know what God is. I wonder if God's calling me. Yeah, going to her midlife good. Hope I raised her really well and helped my husband, of course. And some people are like, she's just an angel, she's just so sweet, she's so smart, and all these things. I'm like, it's Jesus. And we need to be like, not like that, but, we discipline her, Don't stick your finger in the life off, and, we did the whole gentle parenting thing the best we could. But when she wanted to run out in traffic, we, of course, would block her to get her attention, and be like, no, you'll be flat like a pancake. You want to be flat like a pancake? Then don't do that. And we explain things to her on that level as opposed to popping and then you kind of use something to cry about and go, act the fool of this one part. Because that's what we have. You don't have that. So, try that. Well, what do you know? Just shut up. But her enemy was, hey, look, y'all want to remember, you're going to cry. You're going to be crying. No, you're like a pancake. Oh, okay, then we don't. Or we wanted to teach her modesty. So we always make sure her clothes covered and her shirt will dry up. When we go down, we don't show her business. Open student, we go up, we go on her. All things to keep them modest, even at a young age. And so whenever she was in daycare, one of her teachers was giving over and her shirt cover over there. So we go down and her shirt was on me like a and she thanked her for it because she didn't realize that her shirt had been on her. But that's how we do that. That's how we get a new legacy start. We don't make important new things for our kids, but we don't necessarily want to follow in our footsteps. We don't want them to have a part of it. We don't want them to run everywhere. We don't want them to those things. We want something new. And starting in new ways. Because I said so. Sometimes you like that, but when we come back later, we're like, this is why. We didn't have a chance to explain it properly earlier, but this is why. She goes, okay, I get that. But it gave her a reason for beliefs and why she should behave a certain way, and why she should do things a certain way. So it says a window or a mirror. Material wealth is either a window through which we see God, or a mirror in which we see ourselves. And that will say God whatever we see. So when you're looking at everything you have, are you seeing God or are you seeing yourself? Are you seeing what God placed in you? The seeing it to him? Or are you seeing this right? See what I mean? I built this on my hands. I built this. Whatever you got on the property. Are you saying, I have this because I was. I have this because I was a I have a good working vehicle because God blessed it. He made sure that the price was right. And it was exactly what I wanted to do. It matched all the things and everything lined up. And God blessed me with that. God blessed me with these different things. You know, I've got that because I work hard. I blood, sweat, and tears. I did it all myself.
No.
God bless me. And that's what we have to look at. Even when we look at our kids, are we seeing what God blessed us with and how God's manifesting themselves? Or are we just seeing ourselves because we put that on them? Well, it's just like me. It's how we're going to and I know this is deep, and I know it's a lot.
Is it muted?
That's what work is, because it takes work. It takes work to get to grow spiritually. It takes work to live our ourselves. It's not just easy peasy all the time. Yeah, we have to work in business, but we also have to work in the spiritual sense as well. Because when all is said and done, what's the tail end of it? This morning the thought came to me when somebody goes, hey, Sister Darlene, I'm coming over to your house. I'll be there in 3 minutes. What's the first thing you're going to do? She's going to be running around like mad. And then she goes, why is she coming? What did I do? And you're just going to be panicking. But, what if I call and I say, you hear the trumpet call, you're going to be more concerned about your house, or you're going to be more concerned about your neighbors. You're going to talk to them. Where is your focus? Yeah, we need to keep a clean house and we need all those things. But if the final trumpet calls, have you done all that you were supposed to do? Did you work as unto the Lord? Did you do everything you wanted you to do to the best of your ability? And you can say, yeah, I did. I'm here, but I'm not going to do something for you. But if you took it off for granted and kept pushing it off, being lazy, I don't have time. I don't know what to do. Get everything. Good night. They'll be there tomorrow. They'll be there tomorrow. But then God takes them out that night. I'm just trying to do it. That's why we have to continually work and wait for the Lord. What makes work rewarding? Ecclesiastes 9:7-10. Go thy way, eat thy bread with joy, and drink thy wine with a merry heart. For God now accepteth thy works. Let thy garments be always white, and let thy head lack no ointment. Live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of the life of thy vanity, which thou hast given to thee under the sun. And all the days of thy vanity, for that is the portion in this life, and in thy labor which thou takest under the sun. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with all thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. So basically, can you take it with you?
No.
Can you put that house in your coffin? You what? That's right, you'll never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul. You can't take it with you. So that's why we have to continually to work and do things with all of our might and do our work as unto the Lord. It says, even though expressed through cynicism, is with what Solomon had just said, these words from Solomon, when read in the context with other scripture promises, drive home some powerfully positive truths. Sorry, I tickle the throat. Work, though not always pleasurable, should be enjoyable. Work can cause us to prosper and be happy, and life can be good. God takes note of our labors and profit from our work, helps provide income sufficient to live joyfully with our spouse and family. So work, even if your job situation is less than ideal. Give an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Do it with thy might. When you eat the labor of your hands, you will be happy, and it shall be well with you. So when you think about that in this context of today, when you come home from a hard day's work and you sit down and you have that, this was our meal last night, that New York strip and french fries with your favorite steak sauce. It makes you feel good because you worked and you were able to get that. You were able to afford that. It was on MVP special. It was on MVP special. It was a really good deal, so it went in the money. But it's because of God that we were able to afford to get that. And the MVP special, thank you, MVP specials. Because when we do things like that, we're able to, for lack of a better word, treat ourselves. Whether it's to a golf game or to a hunting trip or whatever, it makes us feel good. And that's how we live joyfully. So invest wisely, don't worry. And I'm going to look this one up because it doesn't have all the verses in the book. Ecclesiastes 11, verses 1 through 6. And I'm going to read this out of the Amplified version. Cast your bread on the surface of the waters. Be diligently active and make thoughtful decisions, for you will find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, or even divide it to 8, for you do not know what misfortune may occur on the earth. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth, and if a tree falls toward the south or toward the north, and the place where the tree falls, it rots. He who watches the wind, waiting for all conditions to be perfect, will not sow seed, and he who looks at the clouds will not reap the harvest. Just as you do not know the way and the path of the wind, or how the bones are formed in the womb of a pregnant woman, even so you do not know the activity of God who makes all things. Sow your seed in the morning, and do not be idle with your hands in the evening, for you do not know whether morning or evening planting will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both alike will be good. So basically, we don't hold creation in our hands. Some people like to plant in the morning, they say that works best. Some people plant in the evening because that works best. Some water in the morning because they think that's right. Some water in the evening because they think that's right. But if it storms, what does that mean? If it's storming when you think it's the right time to plant, and you still go out there to plant. Wait. Basically, investing wisely in anticipation of gain and profit, but also giving with intentionality, understanding God's rewards those who do. So as we do our work with our hands and as we give, God will continually bless. Because, like Pastor Ken as well said, and Pastor Clinton has mentioned too, God only asks for 1 potato. Out of 10 potatoes that you harvest, God only asks for 1. So what can you do with 9 potatoes? You can do quite a bit, can't you? A salad, mashed potatoes, tater cakes, baked potato, twice baked potato. There's a lot of things you can do with that many potatoes, right? God only asks for 1. And so when you think about this, and He's asking you to give of your time and talents and efforts and energies, what are you doing with the time that you have? If you just give 1/10 of your time, if you take 10 minutes out of an hour, let's just say for, just as an example, what would you do with that 10 minutes? Would you just give him your list, your honey-do list? God, I need you to do this. Okay. Or did you just take time to bask in His presence and thank Him for what He has there? I know it's a lot to take in. we should continually do, because verses 4 and 6 say we should sow faithfully and consistently. In the Word for Today, Pastor Chuck Smith writes, there will never be a perfect day or perfect time to do the important things. You just have to do them. Don't watch the clouds. Watch the one coming on the clouds. Tickle in the throat. Get it out. So that's why it says to constantly be watching. So constantly be doing the work of the Lord. And it's not necessarily that you have to physically do things with your hands or anything like that. Sometimes the Word is taking that time to pray. Taking that time to read the Word and just to soak in. Because, and I'm going to speak life to this situation, because as this church fills with people, and as we grow, it's going to take you guys and y'all's wisdom and knowledge to help pour into these people. Because look at the world that we live in. They're going to need that. They're going to need you. That's why we're all still people. That's why we're all still here. Because there's a plan. Because not everybody can do the things you can do. You have knowledge that other people don't have. You have knowledge that I don't have. Because I need your knowledge too. See, it's a full circle. And that's how we keep life going. That's how we keep the legacy going. Just like at camp meeting, or just in church in general, if nobody teaches you how to do it, how do you continue the legacy? If nobody teaches you how to stay on your knees until you reach heaven's throne, what do you get? If nobody teaches you or shows you or imitates that in front of you, how do you get anything out of it? But when you sit there and you watch mom and daddy pray, or when you watch mom and daddy on their knees and reaching heaven's throne, you've learned how to do it, right? You learn how to get down on your knees and do that and wait, because mom and dad taught you. Brother and sister taught you. And if we've done our part right, that's what our kids will learn. That's what our kids will do. And that's how the legacy continues. Because if it just stopped at grandma and grandpa, and they didn't pass it on to anybody else, where would we be today? That's the continuation of the word. It's more than just physical word. Reverence God, Ecclesiastes 12:13 and 14. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commands, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Much of Ecclesiastes is the sad spewing of the one who started out with a divine favor and extraordinary wisdom, but squandered his life away in backsliding, idolatry, and debauchery. His great wisdom was basically given away for pleasure's sake, and appeared he might go to his grave in bitterness. He is the epitome of the one Jesus spoke of when he asked, for what shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? The Hebrew word translated fear does not speak of being afraid of God, but rather reverencing the awesomeness of a God who looks from heaven, sees the inhabitants of earth, and considers everything they do. God observes our work ethic. Solomon concludes the proper response to the fear of God is to keep his commandments, something the king had failed to do for many years. Ignoring God's laws concerning marital fidelity left Solomon unfulfilled and conflicted. Defying God's laws about acknowledging other gods rendered his life miserable and meaningless. It is as if he was crying out at last, "Oh, that I had feared God and kept his commandments all these years. Oh, that I had invested my years in productive service instead of spending them in things that bring no lasting peace." It is as if we can hear him say, "Don't make the same mistakes I made. Do it right. Work honestly. Honor God." Daniel Webster once said, "The most important thought that ever occupied my mind is that of my individual responsibility to God." So what can we take away from Solomon right now? After his belly aching and temper tantrums through Ecclesiastes, we learn that he says, don't do what I do. He was supposed to be the smartest man in the world. But what did he do? Teach us what kind of legacy did he leave? And so then he was telling us to keep God's commandments and do what we're supposed to do, right? So if we keep his commandments and we do what God tells us to do, we should be able to live joyfully, right? It's something that we really, really, really need to take to heart in that God has a purpose and a plan for our lives. Some of us know it, some of us may not know it. Some of us may be in a different spot right now and we're trying to figure it out. But by keeping his commandments and listening to him, for him, and with him, we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to do that work joyfully. Just like as we go to a haunted house this evening, we do it with a joyful heart and with the right reasons behind it. And for those that gave, we thank you for that. Because not only are you feeding these people physical food, we're going to be up there, we're going to help them with spiritual food, because that's what they need. That's one of the commandments that we have. And by us doing our part, by you guys doing your part, even if you just pray, it will help. Because that's what we're supposed to do, that's what we're commanded to do. So as we go into this time of prayer, which God also commands us to do, to take time to still away and pray, listen for his voice. See what he's asking of you. See what he's wanting you to do. Sometimes it's something little, sometimes it may be, you're doing what you're supposed to do, just, I don't know. And God still continues to bless you with the water in your well that you need, with the eggs for the chickens that you need, with the money that you need, with a deal on pipes that you need, whatever the case is, God will do it. Because he has a purpose and a plan. He just asks us to obey his commandments and stay in the center of his will, to trust and obey. Because there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. So as we take this time to go into prayer, lift one another up. Give God praise for what he has done. Truly worship him in beauty of holiness. Let it be a sweet smelling savor going up to heaven during this time. Because that's what it's about. And that's what will help bring people through those doors, is by us doing all those different things. So work as unto the Lord, whatever you do. You pretend that you're serving the Lord every time you make a sandwich. And it'll be the best sandwich every time. You treat those patients like they're Jesus, and they'll be just fine every time. Because then you know you're doing it the way how you should, and you're not doing it out of grudging or necessity. You're doing it right. So let's take this time, go to the Lord in prayer, find you a spot, pray. Let your request be made known. Take that time to give him that praise and adoration that he deserves. As we still can go on, if you see in our words to do all the ways that you put the different outreaches and different things, he sees, he knows. That's why he's continuing to bless each of you.